All right, let's dive in. Today we're taking a look at Farid Dieck's YouTube analysis of the movie Leon, the Professional.
Yeah, you sent me the transcript and
You know me, I love a good deep dive.
I know you do.
So.
You know, this movie gets me every time, and I think Dieck really picks out some interesting stuff here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a film that just stays with you.
Yeah.
So just to set the scene, Leon, the Professional, we've got a hitman, right? Living this super solitary life in New York City.
Yeah, Leon, the ultimate loner.
Right. And then enter Matilda,
12 years old.
12-year-old girl, whole family gets murdered by this totally corrupt DEA agent.
Stansfield, what a character.
Oh, yes, Stansfield. Intense.
Yeah.
So Matilda, she's desperate, doesn't know where to turn, and ends up, of all places, on Leon's doorstep.
Seeking refuge with a hitman. Talk about an unlikely pairing, right?
Right. And he takes her in.
Which already tells you there's something more to this guy, right?
Absolutely. And that's where their relationship, becomes the heart of the film.
It's such a complex dynamic, and Dieck really gets into, the psychology of these two characters, how their pasts, their traumas kind of draw them together.
What I thought was so interesting was the way Dieck points out Leon's always drinking milk.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem very Hitman-like, does it?
Not at all. That's what makes it such a brilliant detail. I mean, think about it. You've got this ruthless assassin.
Right.
But then he's constantly chugging milk like a little kid.
Yeah.
It's like this weird juxtaposition, right?
Yeah, totally.
Dieck uses that to show, Leon's inner conflict. That there's this softer side to him, maybe even a longing for innocence, that the milk represents.
Maybe he's trying to, I don't know, reclaim some part of his childhood.
It's possible. Or maybe it's a way to distance himself from the brutality of his work.
Yeah, like a defense mechanism.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think.
And, it connects to another really symbolic element, Leon's houseplant.
Ah, the houseplant.
Everyone remembers the houseplant.
Yeah, it's not just set decoration, is it?
Definitely not. Dieck links it directly to Leon's, his emotional state.
Yeah.
It's fear of commitment, of putting down roots. Literally.
Remember when he says it has no roots?
Yeah, no roots. That's such a loaded statement, right?
So true.
Because it reflects Leon's own inability to form lasting bonds,
And then Matilda, she's the one who suggests he plant it.
Yes. It's like she's saying, hey, you need to put down roots, build something permanent.
Yeah, it's a small moment, but under Dieck's lens, it becomes this powerful symbol of Matilda's yearning for stability and Leon's resistance to it.
Yeah, their whole dynamic is playing out right there with this houseplant.
That whole idea of roots of connection, it ties back to that really memorable line in the film.
Oh, which one?
When Matilda asks Leon, is life always this hard, or is it just when you're a kid?
Oh, yeah.
And he just says, always like this.
Oof, that one hits hard.
Gets me every time.
It's such a simple line.
Right.
But it reveals so much about their shared experience of pain, Their lives are vastly different, but there's this common ground of hardship.
And it makes their bond all the more, poignant.
Poignant, yeah. You can see how it starts to wear down Leon's defenses, He begins to soften towards Matilda, taking on this, paternal role.
Yeah, he teaches her his skills, right? But also emphasizes education.
Yeah, he wants better for her than the life he's chosen.
Right.
You can sense the shift in him.
Like he's rediscovering, some kind of humanity that he'd buried deep down.
Yeah, Matilda, just by being there, is forcing him to confront those parts of himself.
And that confrontation leads to both their triumphs and their downfalls.
Absolutely. The stakes get higher.
Which brings us to, I think, the most talked about aspect of the film. Matilda's declaration of love for Leon.
Oh, yeah.
It's a moment that sparked endless debate, right? And it's a tough one, a really sensitive subject.
It is. I mean, how do you approach that? A 12-year-old girl saying she's in love with an adult hitman? It's uncomfortable, to say the least.
So how does Dieck even begin to unpack that?
He goes right at it. He acknowledges that elephant in the room, But he suggests that what Matilda's expressing isn't romantic love in the traditional sense.
Okay.
He argues it's more about her desperate need for security and belonging.
Which, given her family life, makes sense.
Absolutely. She's been through this horrific trauma.
Right.
And Leon is the only person who's shown her any kind of kindness, any protection.
So it's more about gratitude, dependence, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Dieck saying Matilda's love stems from these very deep-seated needs amplified by her trauma.
But even viewing it through that lens, the power imbalance is still there, right? It's hard to ignore that.
It is, and Dieck doesn't try to. That's what's so interesting about his analysis. He's not trying to give us a simple answer.
Right.
He wants us to wrestle with these questions, to acknowledge the ethical complexities,
And that complexity is only heightened by, Matilda's decision to try and take revenge on Stansfield.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a turning point in the film.
It's such a risky move. Puts her and Leon in danger.
It's impulsive, reckless even, but it forces Leon to really confront his feelings.
Right. He realizes he has to protect her no matter what.
Even if it means sacrificing himself.
So even though her actions are, misguided, they end up catalyzing Leon's transformation.
Exactly. And that transformation sets us up for the film's, the heart-wrenching climax.
Yeah, get the tissues ready.
Leon, he knows the odds are stacked against them,
Yes.
so he pulls out all the stops to get Matilda to safety.
It's a desperate fight for survival.
A race against time.
You just find yourself hoping they'll somehow make it out alive.
Yeah, you really do.
But like a lot of great tragedies, there are no easy escapes.
No, there aren't.
Okay, so we're back and diving deeper into Leah, the professional.
Deeper we go.
Last time, we left off talking about, the symbolism of the milk, that whole houseplant thing.
Yeah.
And Matilda's confession.
All right.
But there's this whole other layer to the film that we got to unpack.
Right, yeah, definitely.
The whole, the ethical side of their relationship.
Yeah, this is where things get a little messy.
It's tricky, right? You can't ignore the age gap, the fact that Leon is a hitman.
Totally. And that Matilda's coming from this incredibly traumatic experience.
So how do we even begin to approach that?
I think Dieck frames it in a really interesting way.
Okay, how so?
He doesn't shy away from the power dynamic.
Which is definitely there.
Right. You have Leon, this skilled assassin, and then you have Matilda, this vulnerable young girl.
It's a tough balance, though, right?
Right.
Because you can't deny that there's genuine care between them.
Right.
It's you have to acknowledge the power imbalance without dismissing the emotional connection.
Exactly. It's nuanced.
And that's why I think this film continues to spark debate. I mean, even Leon's sacrifice at the end, right? Some people see it as redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Others see it as, the tragic consequence of a relationship that just shouldn't have happened.
Right. And Dieck doesn't try to tell you what to think.
Yeah.
He just lays out the complexities.
You think for yourself.
Exactly.
Which brings us to, I guess, the question of consent.
Yeah, big one, especially with Matilda's age.
Can a 12-year-old even really consent to a relationship with an adult?
Right, that's the question.
Especially one who's, a hitman.
Right, it's complicated.
So, I mean, how does Dieck handle that?
He emphasizes Matilda's her resilience, her strength.
Right, she's a tough kid.
But she's still a kid, He's not forgetting that.
Yeah.
And he argues that her love for Leon needs to be understood in the context of everything she's gone through.
Right, the trauma, the loss of her family.
Exactly, and her need for safety, for belonging.
So it's not about, romance in the adult sense.
No, he sees it as more of a cry for help, a desperate attempt to connect with someone who shows her kindness.
But even if we accept that, Leon's still the adult here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't he recognize the potential problems?
Oh, for sure. Dieck isn't letting Leon off the hook.
Okay.
Remember, Leon initially resists taking her in.
Yeah, he tries to send her away, right?
Exactly. He gives her money, tells her to figure things out.
But then he changes his mind.
He does. They spend more time together.
Right.
And he starts to see himself in her,
That shared sense of loss.
Yeah, that isolation.
So he's torn, right? Between wanting to protect himself
and wanting to protect her.
and caring for her.
It's a conflict.
It really adds another dimension to his character.
Yeah, it shows he's not just this cold-blooded killer,
And then there are those scenes where they play games together.
Oh, yeah, the charade scene.
You see this, this genuine joy in Leon.
Right. It's like this glimpse
Of his humanity.
yeah, that he thought he'd lost.
It's almost like they're both, I don't know, reclaiming some part of their childhood in those moments.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
So even though their relationship is full of, ethical issues,
Yeah,
it's also what ultimately leads to Leon's, his transformation.
his redemption, some might say.
Right. It's complicated, but it's also what makes the film so powerful, so thought-provoking.
Definitely, Leon. The Professional is a film that stays with you.
It makes you think, makes you feel.
Before we wrap up, I think it's important to mention that, this is a fictional story.
Yeah.
We can talk about these issues, these power dynamics,
Right.
but it's not meant to be a guide for real-life relationships.
Absolutely. It's about looking at the complexities, having those difficult conversations.
And appreciating the artistry of the film,
Right.
without necessarily condoning everything that happens.
Exactly. And we're back wrapping up our deep dive into Leon, the professional.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, huh?
We have the whole complex relationship, all the symbolism Dieck digs into.
Ethical considerations.
Right. So much to unpack.
It's a layered film for sure.
It is. So now I think it's time to look at, like, the impact of their story.
Okay. Right.
What happens after the credits roll,
Right. How does it all resonate?
Because even though Leon, he dies,
Yeah.
his presence is still, like, felt throughout the rest of the film.
Absolutely. And Dieck talks about that, how his sacrifice kind of elevates Leon in Matilda's eyes.
Right. Like he becomes this almost mythic figure.
Yeah, the protector who gave everything for her.
And that image becomes, I don't know, a source of strength for her.
It does. You see it when she plants his houseplant at the school.
Right. That scene gets me every time.
Such a small gesture.
But it's so symbolic, right?
Yeah. I mean, on one level, it's a way for her to honor his memory, to keep a part of him with her.
Right.
But it's also about growth. Resilience.
Like she's choosing to move forward.
Choosing life, yeah.
Carrying Leon's legacy with her.
Planting those roots.
Right. Literally and figuratively.
Exactly. She could have easily just given up, succumbed to despair.
After everything she'd been through. Yeah.
But she doesn't. She chooses to honor Leon by living.
It's like a testament to the power of human connection.
Yes, yeah.
Even though their relationship was, unconventional,
to say the least.
it gave her the strength to keep going.
And in a way, you could argue that her determination to live a good life is kind of a redemption for Leon, too.
It's a beautiful, but also like heartbreaking cycle,
Yeah. Love, loss, and then this incredible resilience.
It makes you think about how we honor the people we've lost,
Yeah. Do we cling to the past, or do we find ways to move forward?
To carry their memory with us.
Right.
It's something we all deal with at some point, I think.
Definitely.
And the Matilda's journey, it kind of gives us one answer, right? She doesn't forget Leon, but she also doesn't let his death define her.
She integrates it into her life.
Finds a way to keep going.
It's a powerful message.
It is, and I think that's what Dieck is trying to highlight.
Yeah.
That even in the face of tragedy, life goes on.
We have a choice,
To give in or to keep fighting.
To find meaning, to create something good.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Leon, the professional,
Yeah.
what final thoughts do you want to leave our listeners with?
I'd say watch the film again, but pay attention to the details, the nuances.
The layers.
Yeah, think about those ethical questions. Really engage with the complexities.
Because this film, it's about so much more than just a hitman and a young girl.
It is. It's about human connection, resilience, and the power of love.
Even when it's messy and complicated.
Maybe especially then.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the stories that shape our world.
Until then, I can't.